that would be fab. Excellent. So yeah, essentially, I guess most of you will be aware, but if you're not aware, Career Ready are a charity who connects young people with the world of work. So we would normally do face-to-face masterclasses, mentoring, internships, that sort of thing. But clearly at the moment, that's not possible. So we're using this opportunity as a learning experience and trying out some new things. So we're delighted to be able to offer this virtual series. So I'm going to shortly be handing over to Megan, who's going to be our host for this session. So Megan is one of our alumni, so she's been through the Career Ready programme herself, which is fantastic. And she's going to be asking our guest Mary some interesting questions about her career and her journey, etc. We haven't received any questions through the mailbox before the session, but there'll be an opportunity at the end for people to ask questions if there's anything on your mind. So I think without further ado, I'll hand over to yourself, Megan, if that's okay.
Brilliant. So hello everyone, I'm Megan. I graduated from Career Ready back in 2016 from Cardiff Vale College, and I'll be chairing this session. So please make sure that you stay on mute and that your camera stays off. And as Louise said, this event is being recorded, so it'll be available for anyone who couldn't make it today or for anyone who wants to refer back to the conversation. Today we'll be chatting with Mary Macleod, a CVR client partner in the board practice and head of public services practice at Korn Kerry's London office. Hello and welcome, Mary. It's great to have you here and thank you so much for getting involved.
Hi Megan, great to meet everyone here today. Thanks for having me.
Could you tell us a little bit about your current role and the organisation you work for?
Yeah, sure. So I am a senior partner in Korn Kerry, and what we do is we're a global organisation working right around the world. This is our largest organisational consulting firm in the world. So we do everything from executive search, headhunting, so we find great jobs for people. We do look at people within organisations and look at how you develop talent in organisations. So we work with clients, helping them improve their organisations and making them better through helping and supporting the people within their companies.
Sounds great. What led you to this position? Would you say, like when you left school when you were 18, did you see yourself in this position?
Definitely not. Definitely not. And I think that's what makes life interesting and careers interesting, is because we will always, you know, your life is a journey and your career is a journey too. And you never quite know where the next turn will come and what you'll end up doing. So I was looking for an organisation that was global, that was great at what they did, that was ambitious for growth, that had brilliant people, because at the end of the day, a lot of it is about the people you work with. And so that's the sort of organisation I was looking for. And my previous jobs I'd done had been around how you make people perform better, how you build and improve organisations and businesses, and how you create impact for the organisation too. So my journey went from my first proper job after I graduated was in consulting, management consultant. Then I went into banking. Then I went into politics, and then I went into headhunting. And along the way, I did some work within the Royal Air Force, and I worked with the Queen, and I worked for the Prime Minister. So you never know just where your career will end up and where the next corner will take you.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell that you've sort of jumped around in the careers that you've had, particularly within Parliament and the role you've had today. You're obviously quite used to being in roles of influence, should we say, and obviously really successful. So I'd like to know, in your opinion, whether you think it's personal qualities or qualifications that are most important.
Well, you know, I think there's always qualifications are important to an extent, and you always want to show that, you know, you can do the best as you possibly can. And you know, which one of the things I've been told is the harder the work, you better you get at anything you do. So I might have worked hard at various stages, but you know this, it's qualifications gives you more choices often. But then I think it's all the other things are almost even more important, because if you might have the best of qualifications but do nothing with it, or you don't have a great attitude, or you can't work with other people, then they're useless. So I think those personal qualities are things that we can all develop, and we continue to grow as individuals right throughout our lives. And as different things happen in our lives, we have to build new sort of qualities, or just that resilience that we build over time to things that face us. So I think there's a lot of things in terms of the communication skills that's critical in every job. And at the moment, I hire people into top jobs in companies and onto boards of companies and chief executives. And communications is still one of the top things that are out there. How can you be an inspiring leader if you can't communicate your message properly as part of that? Being able to work with others as a team is really important, and build relationships.
I find I know for myself, and probably for most of the students watching today, when I left school, and even today where I've just left university, it's sometimes really difficult to get that onto paper. So sort of how to get your personal qualities onto paper. I mean, everyone tells you how to sort of structure all your qualifications and things like that and get that across. But sometimes it's been more difficult to get across your personal qualities on paper to the employer.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And I think as someone who deals a lot in assessment of individuals when they're going for jobs every day, we look at not just about the experiences you can bring and the skills or the competencies, as they call it, for a job. We also look at who you are. So what drives you and motivates you, because there's every single person on this call today can be successful and do some brilliant things. And it's about having that mindset for it, just exploring, being curious, taking sort of sometimes the difficult road rather than the easy path, and doing things we haven't done before. And we define for ourselves our own journey, and every single person has a different story to tell, a different journey to talk about over time. And that means that just you are unique in and of yourself, and that's brilliant, because you will be able to give different things to it. But it is important, I think, some of the things in terms of who you are and your motivations and sort of personal qualities, you can get through. You can get by giving examples of things that you've done. So whether it's working in a team, whether it's sport, or whether it's working in a in some getting some work experience somewhere, whether it's paid or not. I mean, there's a whole range of things where you can say, or you're part of volunteering for something, or you helped in the local community doing something else. Those things people start going, oh my goodness, they've done something that is meaningful and tried to do something that others perhaps haven't done, and therefore people see more about who you are.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Would you say that you've had to overcome any challenges or barriers in your career or personal life?
Yeah, and I think we all face barriers and challenges throughout life, some more than others, and that's unfortunately is life. And if you haven't faced any barriers or challenges yet, well, go and find some. It's my best advice, because if you haven't, it means that maybe yet, and there's plenty of time, of course, but that you haven't pushed yourself hard on something, or you haven't pushed yourself on something new. And I think life is full of challenges out there. There's good, there's bad, and part of the learning just now is about how you become resilient to deal with the bad, because the good is fine. We'll survive the good. So, and that might be anything from exam results not being quite what you want, or not getting into the college university you want, or not getting the job you want, or there's a whole range of things, or it might just be personal things that are happening in your life that are really, really difficult. And I think, people, as I say, will all face some of that at some stage in our lives. And I think just finding coping mechanisms for those, you don't need to face those things on your own, and there's always somebody out there for you. And whether that is a friend, whether it's a family member, whether that's a teacher, whether that's a career-ready mentor, there's plenty of people out there who would be there for you. And part of that resilience is saying, actually, okay, I've hit a barrier, these things are difficult, I'll get through this, focus on this and get through it. But actually, coming out the other side, life isn't, destroyed my future with this. This is about just saying another turn in the road. And I always think of my sister who, she used to pass all her exams, top marks, and she always wanted to be a doctor and specialise in cancer. And she got to the very final exam where you become a consultant in oncology, so specialising in cancer, and she failed. And you know this? She literally then, she was really down about it. It's like her whole life ambition had failed. But what she did was she became a GP in the local community. She started doing research into primary care for breast cancer. She became a UK leading expert in the topic. She talked around the world in it. She runs 2 medical schools now. She has now got hugely more influence than she ever would have done just purely doing the path she'd originally taken. So sometimes when we face these barriers or challenges, they just take us along a different path, either to get us to where we still want to go or show us huge new opportunities where those have happened. And that's certainly happened to me. So whether it's about there's the odd exam I didn't get, or I didn't get promoted when I wanted to, and sometimes those moments are just moments for reflection to go, okay, say, actually, am I heading in the right direction? Is there something different I should be doing? What else should I, or who else should I ask for help to get advice from? And most things in life, there's always somebody around who can support.
Yeah.
I've also lost a job on television. so for election, of course, for running for Parliament, you get fired on television. I've run 3 elections, and I've won 1, lost 2. So that's where you lose the job on
most people
primetime television. Sorry?
It's more than most people can say to win an election. No fairness. But how would you say that you dealt with that setback in particular? Would you say it was a setback, or would you say it was more of a motivation for you?
I think it's a learning experience. It's a bit like the word failure. Okay, sometimes we don't do as well in something that we want to do, but that I purely say that's about learning. And actually, and it goes back to my thing around barriers and challenges. If we haven't failed at something, go and do something that pushes you and that potentially you might fail at, because you learn more from your failures than you do from your successes. And I think those things are, for me, it's around that positive attitude, just always feeling that you keep going. There's always the next time, never giving up, not quitting, making it a motivation to go, okay, how do I do it differently? So do I need other people to come and help me in some way, or who do I get advice from and guidance from? When my first job, I started my first real job, because I was working when I was 16 with 2 jobs during holidays. I'd work all week in the bank, I'd work in the weekend in the supermarket. When I was at university, I worked right throughout, doing breakfasts in the morning and managing a hotel in the evening. And so, but my first job, once I graduated, the first task was to learn how to code. And I wasn't that great at it. and this was supposed to be my first big job from university. And I'm going, okay, I can do it, but I don't feel confident at it. And what I just did instead was, and thankfully the organisation allowed me to do it, I joined Anderson Consulting that became Accenture. And they basically allowed me to take on roles in big IT programs that we were implementing. And I would take the people, the business side of change. So my role was to say, with this new technology, how does that affect how we do things in the organisation? How does it affect how the business runs? How does it affect people and individuals? Are they trained for it? Do they understand it, etc.? So I took on a slightly different role, so adapted it. So I just thought, as much as I can do it, I know I'm not brilliant at it, and therefore it's probably not something I want to do for the rest of my life. But I found another role within it.
Yeah, I remember actually someone who I actually met through Career Ready. It was during my internship. I was struggling with something, and I remember she said to me that there was no such thing as barriers, and everything was a hurdle, and there's always a way over it or underneath it. So I do try and remember that. Some days it's easier than others, but it's definitely makes a lot of sense.
And I think that is absolutely right. And I think what it is that if you can't see your way over it, And the hurdle's a good way to describe it. You know, if you can't see your way over that hurdle, find someone to help you get through it, because there's always someone who can support and help. I mean, I even say that within an organization. When I, in my first role, I just decided I was going to be the expert on some of the Microsoft Office products. So whether it was Excel, PowerPoint, Word, you know, I just thought no one else knows. I want to be the person, the go-to person and I just learned that. And so I became the expert on it. But if I didn't know something, I thought, I know there's someone in this organization somewhere who does. I'm going to find out, do the detective work and find out who this person is. And that's the same about life generally, is there's always someone out there.
It seems like to get where you've been, you know, you value people's help, and you know, you're not shy to ask for help. So that's obviously something that you would think is a quality to have. But
definitely, yeah. I was going to say though, to be honest, I wasn't very good at doing that, and that's one of my learning points, was that you don't need to do this on your own. And I think I grew up thinking I had to be independent and fight my own battles, and actually you don't. It's people. There's lots of people out there who can support and help, and that's why, I mean, I wish I'd had Career Ready, because, you know, just having a bit of mentoring, someone to speak to about things, get advice from, is brilliant. And you know, you should really have a mentor throughout your whole life. You can change your mentor over time, but you know, keep remembering there's always people that can give you good advice, and you can choose people throughout your career to do that.
Yeah, definitely. So what are three top skills that young people would need to be successful in their future career, wherever that may be?
Yeah, and I think I started off by saying sort of communications is absolutely critical on all counts, and it carries on throughout your career. The whole thing around curiosity, about just, you know, wondering, and I guess it was during lockdown. It was interesting because I was in a park one day, and I was just lying there looking up at the sky, which I don't usually have time to do very often. And I was saying, I remember doing this as a teenager, sort of looking up, going, I wonder what's in the world out there. I wonder what I'll be doing. And I just think that point of sort of being curious about what is out there. You know, you can basically pretty much be anything you want to be in. And I think that's what makes life exciting. So whether it's about reading, listening, asking questions, finding out about things, you know, be curious. There's never too simple a question. And I think I made the mistake sometimes. And I remember in Parliament one day, I'm sitting in the chamber in the House of Commons, and William Hague was then the Foreign Secretary. And I was thinking, oh, I'll ask this question. And then suddenly this little voice in my head went, oh no, that's a bit of a stupid question. And so I didn't ask it. And I turned, at the end of the session, I turned to what's called the father of the house. So that's the person, it could be a mother or a father, but someone who's been the longest person there in terms of time. And I said to him, I was going to ask this, but I didn't think it was that good. And he just looked at me and went, that is a superb question. And it taught me a lesson of, you know, there's never really a stupid question. It's a valid question because you have a curiosity and an inquiring about something. So, and then the other bit was about resilience, which we've talked a bit about. Just that is so important, because it's so easy to lose confidence. It's so easy to feel, you know, bad about something. It's so easy just for other people to knock you down. You look at social media and it just takes a few comments that you just take to heart. I mean, I've had that as a politician, you know, and it's just find ways to build that sort of resilience right throughout your career. A positive attitude we've already mentioned. I also think the sort of tech innovation piece, and I don't mean that we all have to be tech experts, but technology is a core part of our lives. And I think as long as you just keep adapting and learning about it, just being, again, as curious about it, because it will be a core part of our lives going forward. And our organisations naturally look for people who don't mind dealing with and adapting to new things and innovation. Engaging with others is always going to be really important. And I think as much as possible, having that belief and confidence in yourself to get you to the next stage. And as much as it's easy to say believe in yourself, and have confidence, you know, yes, you won't have that 24/7. But just find ways to keep believing in that actually there's something that you're worthwhile, there's something great out there for you. And you've just got to try things. If they don't work out, try something different, because that's just building experiences and understanding about the world and the world we work in and live in, and you can have great impact on whatever you do.
Yeah, it's quite interesting that all the skills that you decided to choose are all things that you develop and build on throughout your career. That's never something that is going to be perfected, I suppose. So it's quite interesting that they're things that you picked up on.
Yeah, and certainly even for really senior jobs that I work on at the moment, they will always have communication on it. They will always have they'll have something like strategic leadership, but they'll always have something around engagement. So how you work with others, building a team around you. There's always that piece of it. There's always something interestingly, about passion and purpose. So, do you really believe in the organisation, what they do? What is it really? Is it making an impact in the world, or is it, is there something really exciting in what they're doing? So that, do you really believe in that? More organisations are thinking about purpose these days. It's about, yes, the organisation might be there depending on what you do in your career, but they might be there. Yes, they're building. There's a business, or they're giving value to the shareholder. But at the same time, are they doing things to make an impact in their local community? Doing things to change the world in some way? And I do think what's interesting is we sometimes feel that in terms of changing the world, it's about leaving it to the politicians or to someone who's a chief executive or someone very senior. But actually, we've had really good examples lately, whether it's Malala or Greta, or that anybody can change the world, or even the lady who during lockdown said, let's just clap on a Thursday night for the NHS. People can do really simple things, and with social media now, it literally you can build support for a campaign or something that matters to people, and that's where it's brilliant, because there's almost like nothing that can hold you back in some ways, because as long as you see it, you have a vision for it, you believe in it, you've gathered the things and the people around you to help you achieve it. You can do any of these things, and some of them are simple and some of them are complex, but it's there's still huge things that can be done out there by every single person on this call.
Yeah. Do you think that the purpose that they're looking for is that like a passion and purpose for the firm? Do you think, or would it be for the industry? Because like for example, for me, so I want to go into like law and like rehabilitation and things like that. And a lot of the firms I would be applying for are like charitable firms that, if I'm honest, I didn't really even know existed.
Yep.
So it would be quite difficult to get across your passion for that firm, even though you're extremely passionate about what they do.
Yeah, but I think what you do is you always go back to the core bit of what you're passionate about. So you can talk instead about generally about rehabilitation. And then what I would always do at the end is then reflect it back to, and the great thing about you as an organisation is you're at the heart of this. You're trying to change the whole process or thinking around rehabilitation. I mean, I did some work with the Ministry of Justice when I was an MP around breaking the cycle of crime with the Lord Chancellor. And it was interesting, it's fascinating the fact you're giving people a second chance in life, you're making sure they're educated, you're building their skills for them. At that time, I think it was 65% of people in prison when they came out within 2 years were reoffending. Yeah, and that just affects all of us. So I think what it is that you basically passionate about the subject is great. And then, and it's also, I think that becomes authentic. So think of something where you can be authentic on, where you go, and maybe it's a story, maybe it's just the fact of why you're so passionate about it. But then relate it back to the organisation, and that's why I want to join this firm, because actually that's what you're doing, and I really want to be a part of growing that and making an impact.
Yeah, that's what I want to bring that up, just because I suppose a lot of the people on this call would be, not everyone would be applying for the big well-known firms, and sometimes it can be quite difficult to get that across. So I just wanted to get that in.
And sometimes I must say that another thing I learned during my career was sometimes it's the really simple thing of, I really want to work for you. It's got to be real. It's got to be real. But if you meet someone, and an interview is always a two-way process. It's a bit about the organisation thinking, is she right for us? What's she like? And the vast majority, if you've got an interview, the most of that interview is more about who you are rather than necessarily everything about what you've done. Because the what you've done have kind of got you the interview, but it's the who that you are and that positive attitude and the engagement and your desire and want to be part of it. And if you show that hunger for it, then I think people go, Frankie, I really, you know, she'll inspire the rest of the team. She'll be brilliant. So I think that's, yeah.
So if reflecting on your career, which pieces of advice do you wish you had been given at the age of 17 when you left school?
Well, certainly, I must say I haven't. I really wish I'd had Career Ready to help. I said that earlier, but it really would have made I think it just helps having someone to talk things through with this. I mean, I definitely would have wanted someone to say, look, the harder you work at something, the better you get. So in some of the subjects, whereas I wasn't particularly good at physics, and you know, partly that was because I had a particularly uninspiring physics teacher, but you know, but anything in life, sport, music, any subject, you know, the more hours you put into it, the more you get out of it. And I really wish I'd had a mentor early on, because I was brought up in the north of Scotland, and I think it was reasonably, and maybe it was just the areas I was in, but it was very localized, and they didn't really talk about what was happening in the rest of the world. Yes, we did history and we looked at global things, but still, in terms of jobs, you tended to stay in the local area, and so they thought, because I was good at English, I'd probably be a teacher. But that was the only thing I got, and that was all I could see around me, because I didn't really see anyone else doing. You know, I worked in the local bank during my holidays, and so there was a bit of that in terms of just explore. I wish I had known sort of huge world out there. And I think that it'd be good if someone had sort of said, look, there is just any opportunity that you, and things that you can do, and do something that really inspires you. And you may not know yet what that is, and that's okay, because in life, you know, sometimes you just take one step, see where that gets you, and then you take the next step. But do something that you love, do something that inspires you, you know, do things or find out about things you don't know about. And it's that curiosity thing again, is to, you know, do ask about things that are out there. I mean, that's how I got into politics. I knew nothing about politics. And I had moved to London as a management consultant. And some of my friends were going to the House of Commons one evening, and I said, what are you doing there? And they said, we're part of this think tank. We do this in our spare time, and we're going to meet the Secretary of State for Health. I'm going, can I come? And that was the start of my love of politics, because I just couldn't believe I was in sort of Parliament and listening and speaking to ministers and engaging with things that were changing the world, and certainly changing the UK and the world and the communities we live in. And then I helped with Northern Ireland peace process, and then I thought I'd stand for Parliament, and it all took off from there. So you just never know what. And certainly when I stood for Parliament first, and then a year later, I got offered the job as advisor to the Queen. I never would have thought that was going to happen in that space of that year. And I think a year before I stood for Parliament, I didn't ever believe that would have happened. So I think it's just it's being open to all sorts of things out there. Keep finding out more and more about what are the options, what are the things that are available, and do and research it as well, because you know everything's online. So you know, research it, ask others, link in with people that you think might be interesting and useful, and get advice. But you know, there's just masses of opportunities at all stages in careers, and we all have to face it at different times. So even though right now, you know, it's a really important part of your thinking and decision making around what you're going to do. But you know this, you'll be doing that in 3 years' time, in 5 years' time, in 7, 10 years' time, because we keep moving, our careers move, and as we go through life, and therefore you sort of get used to the bit of this uncertainty. But it's just always keeping your eye on just what is really important to you, what is inspiring, what do you love, what sort of people do you want to be around. And, you know, and I've typically always stayed in a job as long as I'm learning, I'm developing, I'm loving what I do, I've normally stayed in a job, and then the minute that doesn't happen, and I've stayed in the odd job too long, but whenever that you feel you're not learning or loving it, then, and you can define your own criteria for what that is, then you can think, all right, time for a new opportunity and time to grow into something else.
Yeah, yeah, makes a lot of sense. So can you think of a mistake or a bad career move and discuss what you learned from that?
I mean, I've definitely stayed in a company too long, and I knew I wasn't being stretched, and I wasn't that happy in it, and I think I just stayed too long. And I think, but then in the long run, I mean, the thing is with a lot of these things in terms of mistakes, you know, it's not a life-changing mistake. You know, these things are just little, you know, hurdles along the way, and you just think through them and find something else. You know, there are things at work where, you know, I didn't find a sponsor. You know, it's really important in the workplace to have someone who knows what you're doing, can help you get promoted and get through an organisation. And you know, and I wasn't good enough about talking about what I'd done. It's part of probably the British mentality of, yeah, you can't say how amazing you are, but there's not much point just working hard and not letting people notice that. So you have to talk a bit about and engage with people to show. So staying silent is not much good. You know, just being too busy sometimes, and we do need sort of time to think, to really think through it. And just owning these things, because sometimes in life, you know, and partly, I mean, when I started work, I didn't have any money growing up. So, you know, part of my motivation when I started was I need to earn money and be financially independent. But that again changes over time as you get through life, and other motivations come in terms of what drives you and what you want to do. So I don't worry about, yes, there's bits here and there I've done slightly differently, but there are decisions that have been made, and I just think learn a little bit from the past, but just keep looking forward.
Yeah. But you've a fair bit about being, like, you know, making sure you stay resilient and open-minded to new opportunities and things like that. But do you think there's anything, like, specifically that you've discovered in your career, perhaps like from another colleague or, you know, from day-to-day activity, where you think, I wish I would have done that when I was 17, that could help the, you know, the people who are listening today?
I mean, I think there's definitely things just about, I think, believing in yourself a bit, that is right, again, goes right throughout life, and not knowing what's out there. So I wish I'd been a bit more curious at that age. I wish I'd asked more questions, because I think I just assumed that, and as I say, I didn't have Career Ready, and I didn't have the mentoring and support thankfully all of you are getting, which is brilliant. And I think I just wish as well in that resilience piece to know that actually it's okay not to do well at something. Yes, we all want to be brilliant, and we're all brilliant in our own way. But, you know, at the odd occasion where things aren't right, or you don't get or you don't get the results, or you don't get the job you want, or there's always something else. And I think having that sort of mindset, that, you know, life is, that everyone will take a different path. It's not just the same path for everyone, and you can choose that path. And it's also okay if you don't know what you want to do right now. You know, I didn't know what I wanted to do probably up until I was sort of at university. At university, I did a subject I was good at school, and that's okay, because actually as time develops, you will start finding those things that you find interesting. And I got involved at university in the Student Industrial Society and started running events and linking in with businesses, and that helped me get my first sort of real job after I graduated. And, you know, so there's lots of things where it's just do things right now that that are helping to inspire you, that are making life interesting for you, that are new and different and treading new paths, and so that you're learning and developing as an individual. And then over time you will find, and it will happen throughout your career, you know, every few years you'll be thinking again to go, okay, am I still in the right place, or do I want to do something different, or how do I go and do something new, or how do I get promoted, or how do I get to the next stage of my career. So it's an ongoing life challenge.
It sounds busy.
Yeah.
What has been the rationale behind most of your career moves? For example, like when you left parliamentary roles, why did you decide to take on a more corporate role?
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting question, and I think throughout life we choose different things at different phases. And what's right for you age 17 or 21 may not be the same thing that's right for you age 30 or 40. And that's okay, because there'll be different priorities at different times. And I think initially it was always about learning and developing and working with great people, because you learn from them too and you get inspired by others around you. So working with great people and doing something really interesting and that was market leading, so those were the things that really motivated me. But as I started to get involved in politics, I went, oh my goodness, the fact you can change the world. And in business, I was changing organizations to improve their performance and make them better. But then I suddenly realized when I saw politics, I went, oh my goodness, you can do this. You can improve local communities, you can improve the country, you can improve the world. And you can make a different type of impact by doing all of this stuff. And so again, that was just because of the experience I gained from getting to understand politics. I decided that that's where I'd move. And then when I did 5 years in Parliament, and then I did a couple of years as a policy advisor to a Secretary of State. I then decided to go back into the private sector for a while. And I think, and who knows where I'll be in 2 years' time or in a year's time. I may have changed again. And I had to make that decision in December last year, because there was a general election. And of course, my party said to me, would you like to have this seat? So they were, in essence, putting me up for a safe seat that I would be back in Parliament again. And I really had to go that agonizing decision of, okay, do I want this or do I want that? And these decisions are difficult, and you never quite know whether it's the right decision you make. But I was loving what I did at the particular point in time. And it was easy for me to go into where I am now, because I'd already done consulting. I'd also done work on people. What I loved was really trying to develop leaders and finding the right person to drive change and make organizations better. So, and I did a really good network from my days in Parliament. So what I thought was that I can help other people be brilliant at what they do, by making sure they're in the right roles. But who knows? I mean, if we have this conversation in a year's time, I might be doing something very different. So that's the exciting thing about life. I was going to,
if you could pinpoint where you would be in 5 years, but it doesn't sound like you would know.
No, and I think it's, I think it's different if you do a job where you're perhaps a doctor or, something that is very vocational. You have perhaps a better idea. But even then, as I say, my sister, who's a doctor, wouldn't have been able to plot her initial 5 years, because I think right throughout life, there's always opportunities to do things that you never realised before. So when I was in Parliament, I had in my constituency quite a large Asian community. So I did work in Pakistan on economic empowerment of women, how to allow women succeed. I did stuff about violence against women and girls. I did things in India about female feticide, because they were killing off female babies. So I was doing work on that. In Bangladesh, there was forced child marriage. So I was doing campaigns on, girls of age 8 were getting married off to old men. So again, doing campaigns against how awful this was and things should be changed. So everywhere you go in life, every corner you turn, some other things come and present itself to you. And that's about asking the questions, looking at what's out there, just seeing, understanding what's happening in the world today. And then you suddenly realize sort of what your passions are over time, and again, they can't change, but just, you know, and there's ways where you can, you know, then focus on the things. It's like you on rehabilitation, you know, goodness, you know, you can do so much in that area and so much still needs to be done. And therefore, you know, it's all about just following that passion, finding those things that inspire you, and just saying, how can I do something in this field, and researching it, and seeing it. And if people aren't doing something, then you can create it. You know, all it took was Greta for a while sitting outside and protesting, and she kept protesting on her own to begin with, and then people gathered, and now she's in every world stage. And okay, she hasn't really asked for that, but you know, but again, it's not. If you follow what you believe in, follow what you're passionate about, and as I say, be curious and find those things where you just never know where it might lead, then those are the paths, I think, that will give you huge reward, because you know, whatever that reward is, whether it may be financial, it may be sort of more personal, it may be about how you can make an impact in the people around you, and about the people wider across the communities that you live or work in, and that's the thing that will just change and adapt over time. But you can be a part of that, and you can help lead and shape and drive real change and make a massive difference to people around you, and across the wider area, whether it's the country or the world or elsewhere.
Yeah. So finally, before I let you go, I think I might have kept you for longer than I should have done, actually, but could you tell me what you think it means to be career ready at 18, and do you think that you were career ready when you were 18?
I definitely wasn't career ready at 18, so you're probably all well ahead of me, which is fantastic. I think I knew I wanted to explore the world. I wanted to, you know, I thought, oh, I wonder what's happening out there. I want to go and find out what my future might be. So I was curious. So I had a very open mind about what that might be. I think that to be career ready is about keeping building skills and experience, and keep building your knowledge about day-to-day things. Don't take no for an answer, you know, just be resilient and believe in yourself out there. But I think it's the more that you can do to learn about things you don't know, the more you can do to whether it's just getting sort of work experience, or just or getting an insight, as career ready allows you to do, to see what's out there, then you will be more and more career ready as time goes on. Brilliant.
Well, thank you so much for your time. It really has been great to meet you and learn more about your career path. We all really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to, you know, to chat with us, really. So thank you very much.
My pleasure, and thank you so much. Lovely to meet you all, and good luck for the future. I look forward to hearing all your success stories over time.
So good luck.
Take care.
Thank
you. Bye-bye.
The next careers conversation will be on Wednesday, the 5th of August at 2 p.m. when we'll hear from David Cook, who is the head of IT Europe and America from ANZ Banking Group. To book your place, please head over to Eventbrite, probably like as if you did for today. Thank you, everyone. I hope you all have a great week.